Next one is the Robbie Geller. You have 4 minutes.
Minister, you are very welcome to the House this morning, and I thank you for your presence. I would like to discuss the issue today of car parking charges for cancer patients throughout our hospital network throughout the state. At the moment, as you can imagine, when somebody gets a diagnosis of cancer, it is a very traumatic and life-changing event. And it does incur, among other things, many other things, perhaps someone having to give up their work and the lack of income that that family may have at that point in time. And supposed to add hurt to insult, they then have to fork out very serious charges throughout our hospitals in order to get treatment for their cancer diagnosis. I suppose you can imagine the trauma that they're going through. I would like, I suppose, first of all, to acknowledge that some hospitals throughout the state have, through their own bat, taken on this particular project and allowed free car parking charges or subsidised car parking charges for some of the patients attending. But I think it's something that the Irish Cancer Society have been calling for some time, is that the HSE and indeed yourself, Minister, would take a lead in this and issue guidelines to all our hospitals so that there is clarity in relation to this particular issue throughout the hospital network. Clearly, small things like car parking, we'll say, for example, when someone gets their first letter in relation to a cancer diagnosis, that it clearly outlines in that letter what the arrangements are for car parking. Our car parks, for example, should be clearly identified to where the free spots would be. Now, I would like at this point to acknowledge the campaign that the Irish Cancer Society have been undergoing for some time. They have, I understand, been seeking a meeting with the Minister in relation to this particular issue. Unfortunately, that has not been forthcoming. But I would ask today, Minister, that you would take this issue on board, that you would give a commitment to us here today in the House that this issue will be looked at, and that as a first step along that road, that you would make a commitment also here this morning to meet up with the Irish Cancer Society so that a programme can be put in place so that our citizens who are undergoing the traumatic and life-changing situation of dealing with cancer have one thing they don't have to worry about, and that's car parking charges, which in some cases can go up as far as €800 per month.
Thank you. Minister.
Thank you, and just to thank Senator Gallagher for raising this issue, and I suppose to give Minister Harris his apologies for not being here. And I suppose in the outset I would agree. I mean, when you have individuals and their families indeed who have been given a diagnosis, whether it's cancer or not, they're obviously going through a very traumatic experience, and it is, I suppose, on us as well to try and make that as easy as possible for them. So again, to recognise, as you've said, that there are some hospitals that have waived the charge, that have reduced it or put a cap on it as well. I want to thank Senator Gallagher for raising this issue and again for giving me the opportunity to update the House on this matter. Over the past decade, parking charges have been introduced in many of our hospitals. It is important to note that these parking charges form a part of a series of measures which ensure that the operational costs of providing parking services do not impact negatively on a hospital's overall budget. As demand for parking services at our hospitals increases, so does the associated costs of providing these services, such as the initial capital costs of purchasing or renting parking areas, the cost of developing extra parking spaces, the need to provide and to upgrade security systems in hospital car parks, staffing and general maintenance of parking services. I am advised by the HSE and by the Ministers that it does not provide guidelines on hospital car parking, and that each hospital or hospital group implements their own guidelines. So, for example, as I am sure the Senator is aware, Temple Street Children's Hospital, the National Maternity Hospital and Mercy University Hospital in Cork do not provide public car parks. Further, some hospitals such as St Luke's in Rathgar, Merlin Park University Hospital, Galway, Mallow General Hospital do not charge a car parking fee. The HSE is advised again, as the Senator is aware, that a number of hospitals are use parking revenue solely for maintenance and reinvestment in parking facilities, including repayment of loans obtained for upgrading such facilities and the investment in security. The remainder of hospitals using parking revenue to cover the costs of parking services, with any additional income being used to contribute to the general hospital budget or to fund research of specific patient facilities. I'm aware that those hospitals which charge parking fees are very cognisant of the financial implications of parking costs for patients and their families, particularly those with long-term illness. Consequently, some hospitals have introduced a maximum daily fixed parking charge and thus capping the expense. Some hospitals provide reduced car parking fees for patients with cancer who are attending for long-term treatment. However, there are many conditions which can require long-term care, and it's difficult to prioritise one over the other. It is important to consider the clinical circumstances of all patients who require long-term care rather than those of one particular condition. While there is no currently national HSE governing policy on car parking charges, the HSE has advised me that it keeps hospital parking charges under review. In terms of the future development of our hospital system, we must take into account of public transport services, and by supporting the expansion of public transport facilities, we continue to provide more transportation choices to the public when visiting their loved ones in our hospitals. And I suppose that's probably not the main, but one of the key reasons again for the choosing of the site of the new Children's Hospital, that you have access to the various different types of public transport routes. I suppose I cannot make a commitment on behalf of Minister Harris to meet with the organisation. I can certainly take that request back to him and ask him if he can reply to them directly.
Thank you. Briefly, Senator.
Yeah, just very briefly. Thank you, Minister, for the response. You did mention in your own contribution the good work done by the Irish Cancer Society across many issues in relation to this particular subject, and they have engaged with the public to a great extent in relation to this particular issue, and there is need for guidance from the HSE. I think it's not good enough with respect that it's left down to each individual hospital to do their own thing. I think it's incumbent on the HSE to give policy and direction to its hospital network in relation to this particular issue, and I would plead that a meeting would be facilitated with the Irish Cancer Society. I think at least these people deserve on behalf of the people that they represent.
Thank you. The Minister has given an assurance that she'll talk to the line Minister on that issue, and hopefully there will be a positive outcome. Thank you, Minister.
Advised of that, Minister, if you don't mind, please.
Sorry?
Could you keep me advised of that, please?
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you, Gormagot. The next one is Senator Victor Boyne.